Just answer as a group.
1/2.
Okay, 2 minus 1/2.
1/2.
Good. 3 minus 1/2.
2 1/2.
Okay. 7 minus 1/2.
6 1/2.
Okay, so this is what I want to remind you. Your whole number is going down by 1 each time. Do you see that?
Yes.
And then the fraction is what you need to add to the first fraction to make one whole. Okay? So 1 minus 1/3.
2/3.
2/3. 1 minus 2/3.
1/3.
1/3. Notice that there's no whole number because what's 1 minus 1? Yeah. Okay, so 2 minus 2/3. So the first thing that's going to happen, you're going to subtract 1 from the whole number. And then what do I add to 2/3 to make a whole?
2/3.
What do I add to 2?
Oh, wait, 1/3.
Very good. Okay. So 2 minus 1/3, subtract 1 from the whole number. What do I add to 1/3 to make a whole?
2/3.
Okay. So 5 minus 1/4, subtract 1 from the whole number.
4.
And 1/4 plus what equals a whole?
3/4.
Good. 5 minus 3/4, so subtract 1 from the whole. And what do I add to 3/4 to make one whole? Okay? So you kind of remember what we were doing there?
Yeah.
I think we did it on a sprint, but it wasn't unit form. It wasn't written in words. Okay, so this next part is a little review also, okay? So let's just answer together and write it as we answer. 3/7 plus 1/7.
4/7.
Okay. 3/7 minus 1/7.
2/7.
Okay. 3/7 plus 3/7.
6/7.
3/7 minus 3/7.
0/7.
4/7 minus 3/7.
1/7.
Okay. Now here's what I want you to do. I want you to take a look at these next 3 problems and mark true or false. If you mark false, write down what the answer should be. I'm going to pause it while you're thinking about this. So how about table what? Is this first one true or false?
False.
Okay, what should the answer be?
4/5.
4/5. So I'm just going to write the correct answer there. Okay. Table 3. The next one, is it true or false? True. Because 5 plus 3 equals 8, right? And that would have been 8/8, which is 1 whole. Very good. Okay. The next one, table 2.
It's false. It should be 1.
Should be 1 whole. 5 plus 1 equals 6. What'd they do wrong here?
They added the 6.
They added the denominators. Do you ever add the denominators?
No.
Never. Never. Okay? All right, let's look at the next page. I think it's a problem. Okay? All right, I'm going to read this whole thing through, and then I want to remind you how you would have solved this when you were younger without fractions, okay? Meredith went to the movies. She spent 2/5 of her money on a ticket and 3/7 of her money on popcorn. How much of her money did she spend? How much of her money is left? Okay? So I'm going to draw a number bond because that's what you relate best to. And don't draw this because it has nothing to do with the problem, does it? No, I'm just reminding you how you might have done this in 2nd or 3rd grade. Okay, so look up at the board, not with your pencil on your paper right now, okay? So, first of all, who knows the answer? Okay? So, the answer is whatever goes in that question mark, right?
Yeah.
Okay? So, what's the answer, Wendy? Kyle, what's the answer?
6.
6, okay? So he's saying that if we would put 6 here, that would make 25. Correct?
Yes.
Okay? So how'd you do it, Kyle? What'd you do?
I added those two, and then I subtracted that from 25.
Okay, so the first step in doing a problem that has 3 parts and got to figure out how much change there is or how much is left, okay, is to add the 2 items together. Then you're going to subtract from the whole. But in my mind, sometimes I would do 19 plus something equals 25, okay? Yeah, Dusty does it that way too. So it just depends, mostly really on how you prefer to do the problem, okay? So let's take that number bond idea and relate it to this problem, but use a tape diagram. Sound good? Okay. So since I'm on my board, lo and behold, I think I'll use Chiefs colors. Whoops, that's a line. Undo. I couldn't even see it. There we go. That's a fat line, isn't it?
It's like
The Eagles won. I don't know what you're talking about.
green.
Okay, so put a tape diagram on there. I gotta figure out how to make that line smaller.
It's supposed to be 20.
Just don't worry about that. Just do what I asked you to do. Okay. So if Meredith went to the movies, she had some money when she left her house, right? And this isn't about a money amount, it's just the amount of money she took with her, which was all of it. Okay? So I'm going to say 1 whole wallet full of money. But I'm just going to call it 1 whole wallet. Got that? Okay? And what did she buy?
Popcorn and a ticket.
Okay, so her ticket was 2/5 of her money, and the popcorn was 3/7 of her money, and we need to find out how much of her money she has left, okay? And if we use the same strategy that we used on the number bond, what would I do first? Someone besides Kyle. Aaron?
Add the 2 fractions.
Add the 2 fractions, okay? And when I add these fractions, I'm going to move down a little bit because I want to be able to write my answer here. So I'm going to do 2/5 plus 3/7, and then I think I'll use Mrs. Lowry's method for solving this. You guys agree? All right. So common denominator for 5 and 7.
20, 35.
35. And I'm adding. Okay? And so it's very important when you use Mrs. Lowry's method that you go left to right. So it's 2 times 7 first. What's that?
14.
And then 5 times 3.
15.
And what's your answer?
29.
Okay. So how did you solve 14 plus 15? Angel, how did you solve it?
4 plus 5.
And 1 plus 1. Okay. Anybody do it differently than that? Nellie, how'd you do it?
2 times 7.
Yeah, that's what we just did. How'd you do 14 plus 15?
I
Did-
added. No.
The same as his? Anybody do it differently? I'm just curious. Aaron?
I added 1 to 14, and then after I added them, took them away.
Uh-huh. So he made it 15 plus 15, which is what?
30.
And then he just subtracted 1. We got 29. Okay?
I actually go put another 10 there,
Uh-huh.
and then I subtract 1 because I do the 2 ones first, and then I put them both.
So that's similar to what he did. Okay? So that's my answer. 29/35. And if this were a multiple choice problem, I would find my answer and click next and do the next problem.
No.
No. What's my next step? I'm only halfway done.
You have to figure out how much is left.
You have to figure out how much is left. So first of all, we need to figure out what 1 whole wallet is as a fraction.
35.
Very good. 35/35 minus what?
29.
29/35 equals,
1. 6.
I hope that 35 minus 29 is 6. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so how much money did she spend?
6/35.
No, 29/35. How much was left?
6/35.
Very good. Okay, let's take a look at, turn the page. We're skipping that one. So turn the page. Start with problem 1. Okay. So the first thing I need to do when I'm subtracting is make sure the number in front is larger than the second number. Because if it isn't, then I'm going to end up going backwards on the other side of 0, and it's going to end up being a negative number. And you'll learn that next year. Some of you will learn it this year if you get to it and are ready, okay? So the first thing I need to do is make sure I understand that 1/3 is more than 1/5. So you know me, I like pizzas, right?
Yeah.
So if I were to draw this, there's 1/3. Quite proud of my 1/5 abilities, guys. What do you think? Not that great. Anyway, is 1/3 larger?
Yes.
Yeah, especially if I would draw it better. So I'm going to go ahead and solve this. And literally, I'm just going to find my common denominator, then use Mrs. Lowry's trick, which is cross multiplying. So 3 times 5. And 1 times 5.
5.
And 3 times 1.
3.
And the answer,
8.
that's what the other kids said. It's not 8. What is it? Why? We're subtracting. We've been used to adding, so it's hard to go back the other way. But 5 minus 3 is 2, correct? We good? Okay, we're going to go down to the next one. Now, there are times when you're going to have a large denominator and you're just going to have to trust it, okay? And I want to show you what I mean on 5 and 6. So if I were to find the least common multiple here, 5, just help me, you don't have to write this, 5.
10, 15, 20, 25, 30.
Okay, stop. Now help me with the 6s.
12, 18, 24, 26.
Okay,
30.
okay. So when I multiply these together, I'm going to get 30, correct? Is 30 my least common multiple here when I do the skip counting?
Yes.
It is, okay? So we're just going to trust that 30 is going to work. Is 3/5 larger than 1/6?
Yes.
Okay. Did you guys see I forgot my equal sign? There we go. All right. So now I'm just going to solve the problem. What's 3 times 6?
18.
What's 5 times 1?
5.
Subtract
13. 8 or 13.
13 thirtieths, and I'm done. Okay?
This is fast.
Now, let's kick it up a notch, and let's put a whole number in. This is what's leading up to lesson 12. So I need you to really focus and not move ahead of me. So go ahead and put your pencils down for a sec. Okay? The easiest way to deal with the whole number is to do what?
Put it down.
Take it out of there. Move it down and write it and add it to your answer, right? But I can't do that when I'm subtracting until I double check, because I might need to use it. So, Henry, is 3/4 larger than 3/5?
Yeah.
It should be. If I could draw it correctly, right? So that's 3/4. Gonna do better this time. Oh gosh. Undo the last one. There we go. So this is 3/5. So we definitely have more pieces of pizza in the first one, don't we? Okay, so that means I can take the 1 out and add it to my answer, which is very handy, isn't it? Okay, go ahead and do that now. Take the 1 out and add it to your answer. Now, Common denominator for 4 and 5.
20.
20. Okay, table 4. Well, yeah, but don't say anything. What do I do next? Go ahead and say it. If you said it, table 4. Huh? Multiply what? Multiply 3 times 5. And multiply 4 times 3. And subtract.
1 and 3 20s.
So I need to make sure I move the 3/20ths down. Okay? Now am I going too fast?
No.
Okay. Do I need to turn the page?
Yes.
Okay. So here's the next one.
Can I say something?
Take a look at this one. So remember when I said the easiest thing is to take the whole numbers out? Could we combine a step here?
Yes.
Okay, what steps could we combine?
The subtracting and the putting down.
Yeah, I could actually subtract 3 minus 2 in my head and bring the answer down. Can you?
Yep.
Okay, so I'm going to write my thinking right here. If I subtract 3 minus 2 in my head, what do I get?
1.
Okay, so I'm bringing a 1 down. I already know that 3/5 is more than a half. So now I'm going to find a common denominator for 5 and 2.
10.
Okay, now, here's what I want to know. Are you able to just do your multiplying and ignore the whole numbers?
Yes.
So you don't have to rewrite it? So 3 times 2 equals,
6.
and 5 times 1 equals,
5. 1/10. 1/10.
okay? So was that too much in your head, or are you okay with that much in your head?
I'm okay.
All right. Because the other option is to group the whole numbers like we did during addition. But if we're not putting it on a number line, there's really no reason to do that. Okay? All right, so let's take a look at the next one. So if I combine some steps here and don't work ahead, and actually we're going to solve this 2 different ways, so put a line right here. Okay? So if I combine some steps, what am I going to subtract in my head, table 3? 5 minus 3, and what's 5 minus 3?
2.
So I'm going to write the 2 down. And you're really going to have to focus on your task here, okay? So now I've got the 5 and the 3 out of there. I'm not going to scribble them, but that's a visual for you, okay? I'm going to undo that because I don't want to mess things up. So my options here, let's go with the first option, which would be multiply 4 times 6. What's 4 times 6?
24.
Okay, everybody write that down because we're going to solve this 2 different ways. Okay, got that written? And then 3 times 6
18.
and 4 times 1,
4.
and that gives me
14.
14/24. Now, does anyone think that's my final answer?
No. No.
What do you think needs to happen to it? Table 2.
Oh, you need to simplify it so it's going to be 12.
Okay, so I've got to do more than just write 14/24 down. Kyle's right, we got to simplify it. Okay? So do you remember last week when I said you can either divide the denominator in half to start with, or you're going to have to divide it in half when you're finished. Do you remember that? Okay, so we're doing it, we're dividing it in half when we finish. 14 divided by 2,
7.
and 24 divided by 2. So that gives me 2 and 7/12. And that's not wrong. You can do it that way if you want. I had kids that did that on their exit ticket today. What's another way to do it though?
Divide it before.
Divide it in half before. So 5 and 3/4 minus 3 and 1/6. Go ahead and write that down. again. Okay? So below that line. All right, so now, what can I do in my head?
You can take the whole numbers out.
So 5 minus 3 equals?
2.
Okay. And now I'm going to find a common denominator for 4 and 6, but instead of using 24,
12.
I'm going to divide it in half and use 12. And this is where it gets tricky. So stay with me. I want you to hear what I'm saying, okay? So if I divide my denominator in half, what else do you think I need to divide in half?
Denominator.
The numerator. So look at this. Eyes up here. Chief's colors, right? 3 times 6.
18.
But I can't write 18. So I have to do half of 18.
9.
Okay? And 4 times 1.
4, but 2.
Half of 4. What did we get on the first one?
7, 12.
All right, so those are your options. Okay? You can use a 24 or you can use a 12. You can use a 40 or you could use a 20. You could use a 60 or you could use a 30. Okay? So it's your choice. If you choose to use the large number, keep in mind you're probably going to have to divide it in half when you're done. Okay? Is that the last problem? All right, good job.